Hey all, Raza here with the Finding Yourself Book Club. Today we're talking about adult children of emotionally immature parents. If you followed the series, we had to start summarizing as of chapter 6, and I had to cut out a lot of the stories for that, so I'm trying to go back here and share some of the really good stories that Lindsay has in her book. If you haven't had a chance, please do check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can fill out a life balance questionnaire and send it to us via email. You can also just fill out a contact form and we'll be in touch. Thanks for spending time with me today. Okay, so today we're going to continue talking about Chapter 7, Breaking Down and Awakening. We covered a few stories here and we're going to continue. This section is called Waking Up to Anger, and this is Jade's story. Jade used to feel bad about herself for feeling angry so often, especially because her anger was often directed toward her parents. For years, she thought the answer was to pretend not to have those feelings. Secretly, Jade worried that she was a malcontent who got irritated for no good reason. But Jade's anger seemed to have its roots in how her dismissive and emotionally unengaged parents ignored her feelings. When Jade finally started thinking about her anger in terms of her emotional needs being neglected, she was able to see it differently. Now I think there would be something wrong with me if I weren't angry. There are plenty of reasons why I'm angry, and my anger is coming right from my core self. It's very empowering to be angry. I don't want to live a lie anymore. It's been lonely and disappointing trying to relate to my parents. Being with them is isolating. After accepting her anger, Jade could see her healing fantasy clearly for the first time. She had thought she could heal her family by being extremely loving. Here's how she put it. I tried to see everybody as good. I thought everyone loved one another. I was naive. I thought that if you were nice to people, at the end of the day, things would get fixed. I thought that my parents would actually love me, and that my brother and sister might care about what I'm interested in. But now I've learned that I need to do what's right for me and trust myself. I really do enjoy my own company. I don't want to waste my time anymore. I hope I'll find people I can trust. I'm not going to try to make it work with people who are distant or unsupportive. I'll be cordial and polite, but I'm not moving in close just to be disappointed. Honestly, if you can relate to this, I think it's very powerful. First off, we often try to ignore or deny our anger, and you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge that you are upset and angry, frustrated, irritated, annoyed. You have to accept and acknowledge those things. And typically underneath those emotions, there's something a little bit more vulnerable. There's a sadness, right? In this case, there's a longing. She wishes it could be different. And most likely, if you're in the same situation, this is your family and you love them and you wish it could be different too. So it's very, very painful. And you might be angry about it. And if you can acknowledge your own feelings, it's okay to feel however you feel. It's not okay to act however you want to act, right? It's not okay to be hurtful or abusive or anything like that, but it's okay to feel. And that's very important, to allow yourself to feel however it is you feel and to express that in a way that's healthy, whether that means just journaling to yourself. You can even do audio recordings that you then play back and listen to. Sometimes when you're talking, you can't listen at the same time that you talk. So you can record yourself talking about how you feel, and then later you can go back and listen to that. You can also work with a therapist, a counselor, a life coach. But get into your feelings. It sounds so mushy and gushy, but it's super duper important to understand how it is that you feel and to acknowledge and accept your feelings, even if they're not pretty. So here we move on to waking up to better self-care. Lena's story. Lena lived a very pressured life in spite of her best efforts to keep things simple. She always felt like she was running out of time. It was as though there was a voice in her head that constantly told her to keep pushing herself and that her efforts were never adequate. Even pleasurable activities like playing the piano became marathons in which she had to overcome laziness and do her best. She never gave herself a break until she was completely spent. In addition to working feverishly at her full-time job, her life was dictated by the demands she constantly perceived from others, down to her pets and the birds she fed in her yard. A drooping plant could fill her with guilt for not watering it sooner. When Lena took an exercise class to help her relax, she wore herself out trying to keep up and do everything perfectly. During the class, she told herself, "I should be able to do this. This is baby stuff." The next morning, she woke up unable to think or function very well, but didn't realize she had overdone it until she tried to go up some steps, at which point she found that she was so sore she could hardly lift her legs. Lena had a long-standing habit, promoted by her demanding mother, of ignoring her body's cues about fatigue. As a child, if she didn't get things done quickly enough or work hard enough, her mother chastised her for being lazy. As a result, she had never done things at her own pace and was insensitive to her physical limits. Lena had been trained to believe that being a good person meant straining to achieve, even if that meant always being a little off balance and never quite ready. In Lena's quest for her mother's approval and love, she had developed the belief that she was only worth something when she was trying really hard. Her childhood healing fantasy was that one day she would try so hard that her mother would be transformed from a perennially dissatisfied taskmaster into an appreciative parent who recognized how hard her daughter was working to please her. Lena's all-out efforts were also encouraged by society in general through cultural maxims like "try your hardest," "never give up," or "always do your best." For an overly motivated person like Lena, such messages are mind poison. It's unnecessarily exhausting to always try your best. It's more sensible to know when to do your best and when not to. Fortunately, once Lena realized what her healing fantasy was doing to her, she was able to reset her values and take her own needs into account. Okay, so we got a few more stories here. I will go ahead and cover them in the next video. If you haven't checked out our second playlist, we're covering What Makes Love Last by John Gottman. So here's where you translate, in your parent-child relationships, that's where a lot of our emotional loneliness comes from. And ultimately, I think it's Gottman that says nobody comes out of childhood without scars. So you will take a lot of those, they end up becoming what's called emotional, enduring vulnerabilities, and you'll take them into your romantic relationships. So this book and this playlist, what we cover is basically how to be a good partner, how to recognize when you don't have a good partner, which is also super important when you've been involved in relationships with emotionally immature people. You tolerate a lot of things that you shouldn't be tolerating. So it's about understanding your own self-worth, and those acts of self-love is what ultimately helps you to find the best partner for you. So please do check out the second playlist. Do look at our website as well. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. And I look forward to chatting with you guys soon. Take care.